Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's the April Janis Black Warner Speaker Series. I'm Erin Ryan, the CEO of NAMI Westside Los Angeles, and NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. We are the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to improving the lives of people living with mental health conditions and their loved ones. And we do this through support, education, and advocacy. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And I would like to do a special thanks to our advisory council member, Janis Black Warner, for making this event possible. So thank you so much, Janis. We also have our President Emeritus, Sharon Janis, joining us this evening. So thank you, Sharon, for all that you have done through the years and all that you continue to do to support our community. And we also have one of our board members this evening, Sheila Carter. So thank you for all that you do, Sheila, and all of our community members for joining us this evening. Um, One specifically will be doing the introduction this evening. And so gives me great pleasure to introduce him, and that is Garrett Shaw. So Garrett Shaw we were talking earlier before everyone joined, that he is kind of the glue that's brought both of these organizations together this evening. So he is a friend and a colleague. He's an inspiration to anyone that meets him. And he's recently joined the LAT community as their community outreach coordinator. Garrett joined the team for LAT in 2024 as the Community Outreach Coordinator, and he's an alumni of the team's intensive outpatient program. He is very passionate. If you know Garrett is to love him, and you know that he is very passionate about what he does and everything that he does, including as an acting community liaison, as well as co-facilitating inpatient groups at UCLA for NAMI Westside LA. So it gives me great pleasure to let you also know that he has a master's degree in clinical psychology from Antioch University. He has worked facilitating mental health-based groups as well as individual therapy at several programs, including OPICA, Airport Marina Counseling Services, Tallulah Health, Find Your Balance, and Center for Growth and Change. And I could continue to sing Garrett's praises for the rest of the evening, but I'm going to hand it over to him so he can do a proper introduction for our speaker series this evening. Thank you so much, Garrett.
Erin, thank you for such a beautiful, beautiful, touching introduction. I really appreciate this moment. And I couldn't have gotten to this moment without you, Erin, without NAMI, without Sharon Dunez, my mom, my NAMI family, and I couldn't have gotten here without the wonderful team at LAT. And I just want to take a moment just to absorb this positive energy and just really appreciate this moment. So thank you, everybody, for showing up. I am honored to bring together NAMI West LA and LAT tonight for the Janis Black Warner Speaker Series. LAT has been around for over 40 years, helping people to recover from severe mental illness. I am proud to say I am an alumni of the IOP program at the Life Adjustment Team. While at LAT, we did plenty of group therapy, and I also had individual therapy sessions, which were very helpful. We also did yoga, nature walks, basketball, and tennis, among other things that made me feel like a human being again. What I appreciated most about my experience at LAT is that their approach was holistic and took into account all the various aspects of a well person's life, including fun and recreational activities. I can honestly say, I don't think I could have recovered without the team at the Life Adjustment Team. I had to work very hard and remain focused and motivated to get my life back together. I feel blessed to bring together two amazing organizations, NAMI Westside Los Angeles and the Life Adjustment Team. After LAT, I went on to earn a master's in clinical psychology from Antioch University and I am now blessed to be working at the Life Adjustment Team as a Community Outreach Coordinator. For me, the IOP program at the Life Adjustment Team brought healing, listening, structure, and understanding to my life. I began to believe in myself again once I had the support of the team at LAT. Thank you, LAT, for helping me to get to this place in my life. Without further ado, here are two amazing therapists, Eric and KD, who are speaking to you tonight about LAT and all they offer. But before that, I'd love to turn it over to Cynthia Sampson. Thank you.
Wow, such nice words, Garrett. Thank you for that. It means so much to us that you're an alumni of LAT and now you're working with us, and the amount of enthusiasm that you bring to your new job is amazing. I have to say, I mean, you are full of ideas, and it's just so great to have you come into the office and bounce ideas off of each other, and also working with another alumni who is our alumni coordinator. They're sort of pairing up to do things together too. So it's just kind of a really exciting time at LAT, and Garrett is definitely a huge contributing factor to that. So welcome, Garrett.
Thank you, Cynthia.
You've only been with us for about a month, and so much has already happened.
Well, I'm proud and honored to be working with you and for you.
I thought what I would do is just give a little background about the team, because we've been around for a long time, not all of us, but the teams have been around since 1977. So I thought it'd be interesting to give a little background of where we started and then where we are today. I start by talking about Pete Lynette, who's the founder of LAT, and Pete was working as a psychiatric technician in hospitals in New York, and then he moved out to California, and he was working at St. John's Hospital as a psychiatric technician. And he noticed, as did everybody, you know, there were so many clients that were going in the hospital and they were coming out of the hospital. They're going in the hospital and coming out of the hospital. And so he would sort of go around to the doctors and say, you know, I don't understand why there isn't someone that follows these clients into the home and sees what's going on there. Is anybody making sure that they're taking their medication? Do they have a relationship with their doctor? You know, what are they doing outside of here that's causing the stresses that are causing relapse? And the doctors would kind of say, like, well, why don't you do it? And that's basically what happened, is that one psychiatrist at St. John's paired up with Pete, and they started with one client. And basically the family hired Pete to go, wow, I'm like, I turned off my cell views so I could see you guys, but I'm like right here, hello. So he would go with this client to do, you know, things that a lot of people take for granted, you know, go to the pharmacy, pick up the medication, help her with her med box, go recreating, making sure there was some balance in her life, help her with self-management, you know, help her with issues with the family, help the family understand how to be a better participant in treatment, help with vocation education, well, probably volunteering with this person, but what happened is, as he would continue having these visits with this client, they were getting better because they were getting that support out in the community. And so the doctors started kind of referring Pete other clients. And this is someone who didn't even go to college. He has an HS in high school, you know, but he was just really entrepreneurial and very intuitive about understanding, you know, what isn't being seen, what needs are not being met. And he was able to help these clients become more consistent with taking their medication and accessing the services that they needed. And so after a while, he had several clients. And so he actually hired some people to work with him. And they kind of called it Pete's Little Team. And Pete's Little Team was in Santa Monica, and they would take clients surfing, and there was no real clinical background to anything that they were doing. It was just, you know, what are the things that need to happen, and how can we help make their life better? And they really were getting better. But nobody was really sure exactly why. They just understand that putting that extra structure and support was helping. And so one time, Pete went with a client to their doctor's appointment at UCLA. It was a psychiatrist appointment. And they were kind of like, well, who are you and what are you doing here? And he's like, well, you know, I help them, you know, make sure that they get to their appointments, and I help this client to, you know, make sure that they take all their medication, and I help them to, you know, track what are their symptoms, what symptoms are they having, so they can report better to their doctor. And then sometimes we go surfing or we go play basketball, and then, you know, we take care of parking tickets and, you know, all these things. And the doctor looked at him and basically said, what you're doing is called psychosocial rehabilitation. And this is what we are researching at UCLA right now and writing these modules about. And so they basically hired him onto the research team at UCLA and gave him a spot on that research team, which was pretty amazing if you think about it. They even gave him a parking pass that said Dr. Lynette on it, even though he wasn't a doctor, you know, and he came in and he consulted with them, and he was sort of like the lived experience psychosocial rehabilitation expert without even knowing that he was. And so with the knowledge that he got from helping to develop those modules, that gave us sort of a clinical structure for what Pete's little team was doing. And so from that developed the life adjustment team. And so a lot of the things that we still do today with a lot of our clients is just those things based on the modules: medication management, symptom management, recreation, self-management, family, and education and vocation. So that's sort of like the fundamental pillars of the things that we work on with our clients in our psychosocial rehabilitation program. The difference is that now, you know, we only have master's level clinicians. They're all supervised by a licensed therapist, and we're JCO accredited for that service. So there's a lot more that has happened and evolved in that time period. The one thing that over the years, as we were getting a lot of clients better, that we were never able to quite figure out is how to have insurance pay for psychosocial rehabilitation, which is very frustrating because it's a very helpful service. It helps to keep people out of the hospital. It helps them to live better lives. And we've been able to do some, you know, one-off type of contracts with insurance companies who maybe had a forward-thinking person there and thought, oh, we can actually save money, because if we have the life adjustment team in place, you know, the clients will be more stable and it'll be better for us business-wise. But those kind of things never seem to really pan out because they're big corporations, and then someone else comes in and is in charge, and they say, we're not paying for this anymore. You know, so we've had several pilot programs with insurance companies, and we're still working on trying to figure out how to get insurance reimbursement for that particular service. It's something that we'll be always working on. And I think with the passing of some legislation in the last couple of years, it really should be covered. And it's at some point, there will be some impetus where something will happen, insurance will have to pay for it. And we've been able to get some single case agreements in the meantime. But, you know, we wanted to be able to provide services to people that maybe didn't have the resources for private pay as well, and also be able to give people more structure. So in 2014, we added an IOP level of care, and we were able to obtain several insurance contracts for that. So we then took that and just recently this year, we've added a PHP level of care that's accepted by almost all insurance. So while we're still working on insurance reimbursement for psychosocial rehabilitation, we have had great success in getting insurance to pay for these other two levels of care, which is fantastic. And we do have clients that, you know, are able to maybe supplement one with the other. So that's sort of like the history of LAT up to now. The only thing I could say that's really, well, yeah, I think I've run out of thoughts there. So I would like to turn this over to our clinical director, Eric Carlson, who can explain more sort of about what is the nitty-gritty of the services that we provide. And then we can circle back if we have any questions for me.
Thanks so much, Cynthia. And that was a great introduction. I've heard the story every time, but every time I hear it a little bit differently, it lands a little bit differently. So from very humble beginnings, you know, we've really grown into a program with these various levels of care that can support clients. I'll just briefly give you guys an intro. Like, I started with LAT in 2014. So I think the year that we launched that IOP, and I was a case manager with LAT. We called them case managers at the time. We have since switched over to focusing on psychosocial rehabilitation because we want to make sure that everyone understands the distinction between the services that we provide and the master's level clinicians that we have providing them, and what a lot of other people are calling case management. But when I started in 2014 as a case manager, I used to run upstairs and run the CBT group for our IOP. And I don't think Garrett and I overlapped. I think I was a little bit after he had left the program when I started. But I will be at LAT 10 years in August, and I'm pretty excited about it. I've been the clinical director of the intensive outpatient program and now partial hospitalization program since December of 2016. And it's really grown in the time that I've been with it. It used to be sort of, as Cynthia described, that adjunct, sort of to create more structure and support for our existing LAT clients. And it's really become its own standalone service. And I'm proud of the way it's grown and all of the people that we've been able to help with all of the different diagnoses and all of the different symptoms. So let me kind of tell you a little bit about that. So we started with a 3-day-a-week IOP. We're currently running a 5-day-a-week IOP. So Monday through Friday from 10 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon. And clients have groups, including, I'm not going to give you guys the whole schedule, but we have a CBT group, we have a DBT group. So we have those substantive groups. We've just recently added an ACT group. So that's acceptance and commitment therapy. But we also have some experiential modalities, more creative ways to relate to symptoms and what's going on. Art therapy, music therapy. We have a coping skills mindfulness group that incorporates both music and expressive arts within it. So, we really want clients to engage with their creativity. It's a great opportunity to practice mindfulness, which is really one of them that not always the easiest to access, but one of those coping skills that's almost always available to us. We can, maybe I can't drop everything and call a friend or go for a run or get out in nature and get some fresh air and sunshine, but I can almost always slow my breathing down, focus on my breathing, kind of get out of my head and the thoughts that are swimming around there and sort of drop into the moment. So our IOP is a cognitive behavioral therapy based program. And just in a nutshell, we're looking at how thoughts lead to feelings, how feelings lead to the actions that we take, and how those actions that we take lead to the results that we get, or where we find ourselves in our life, as well as how underlying some of the ways that we might be thinking about what's going on might be some unhealthy beliefs that we've developed along the way, that we're not good enough, that we're a failure, that we're damaged goods, that we're unlovable or unlikable, unworthy or undeserving. And all of those beliefs can lead us to filter information in a particular way, such that we're much more likely to see the places where we're falling short in our life than we are to see our successes. So we really want to teach clients about the distorted ways that they might be thinking. There's 10 formally recognized cognitive distortions. I've seen lists that are longer than 10, but things like personalizing, overgeneralizing, fortune telling, mind reading, labeling, black and white thinking, or all or nothing thinking. These are unhelpful thinking styles. These are ways that we think about what's going on that are often unhelpful and untrue. So we want clients to start becoming more vigilant about the thoughts that they're engaging with. We want them to learn to challenge those thoughts so that those thoughts don't have the same grip on them that they might have in the past. We want clients to start coping in healthier ways when they are experiencing their symptoms. And I think one of the goals, and we don't always have the time to do this because, IOP is usually considered a short-term stabilizing type of treatment, but we also want to help at least start the process of clients starting to develop and strengthen healthier beliefs about themselves, so they're not as bothered by those distorted thoughts moving forward. So, our IOP really is very present focused and coping skills based. We work with clients with a full range of symptoms and diagnoses. It's adults only, but we put everyone in the room together. So we've got clients in maybe 18, 19 that are dealing with anxiety. And we have a client who might be 60 or 70 that's dealing with bipolar disorder. And what clients find more often than not, I would say almost always, I don't want to overgeneralize, but almost always clients find almost right away that they can relate to what others are going through, because as humans, we all have way more things in common than things that separate us, regardless of age, regardless of sex, regardless of symptoms or diagnosis. And I think clients almost right away feel that they're not so alone in what they're going through. And I think that's a big part of the healing journey for clients, in addition to everything that they learn in our groups, and all of the things that they do outside of program hours that are hopefully helping and supporting their treatment and recovery. Really just not feeling so alone in what they're going through can really provide a huge lift. So We've just this month gone from the 3-day model of IOP. So we were providing 10 hours of treatment a week, 9 hours of group, and an hour individual. We now have a 5-day a week IOP. So we can provide up to 15 hours of groups per week, just depending on client's acuity and, you know, whether they have other time obligations, maybe they have a part-time job they have to show up to. But we can be a lot more flexible with client schedules and definitely more flexible with their discharging and sort of stepping down more gradually. So they don't have to go from 3 to 2 to 1. They could start at 5 and we can step them down slowly. We've also recently added a mental health primary partial hospitalization program, which is defined as a minimum of 20 hours of treatment a week. We are providing services, I believe it's 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. So we're above the minimum there. So clients would, in our partial hospitalization program, get to see our psychiatrist as well as meet with their individual therapist twice a week, whereas in the IOP, they only meet once a week. And I actually wanted to maybe back up and just kind of go over the different levels of care in the mental health care system. I think that's an important thing for everyone to understand. It's one of the things I discuss when I take an intake call, and even when I'm doing an intake for one of our levels of care. I don't think everyone always understands, you know, all of those different levels of care. So I've got a slide I'd love to share with you guys. Hopefully I can pull this up gracefully.
Yeah, I think that's really important because I think a lot of times when families call us, especially if dealing with a mental illness is very new to them, it can be overwhelming trying to know where to go or what to do, or, you know, do I just need a psychiatrist, or what is an IOP? What are the PHP? How do I know which is the right thing? And then there's so many different ones. And then, you know, a lot of them are, everybody's trying to sell you everything all at once, you know, and it can be a lot. So it helps to have sort of like a framework for understanding what the different levels of care are.
No doubt. And thank you, Cynthia, for that and for providing this slide. But this kind of goes through the different levels of care. The highest level of care being an inpatient setting. So that could be, you know, some client who's either gravely disabled, unable to take care of themselves, perhaps experiencing some psychotic symptoms, having a manic episode, or a client who's just at risk of harm to themselves or somewhere else. A lot of our clients, you know, end up in the hospital. Usually before they start our program, they've been hospitalized or at least checked into the hospital with suicidal thoughts. So the hospital is really the highest level of care in the mental health care system. The focus, generally speaking, and I don't work in a hospital, so I don't want to speak authoritatively on that, but generally speaking, the focus is on safety and keeping clients safe. Sometimes we've had clients come back to our program and they've been put on some pretty heavy duty sedating medications, and it can take some time to work that through their system. But that's the highest level of care. So that's the hospitalization, what we've labeled here as inpatient in red. But from there, a client might step down to a residential treatment program where they're getting services and living in the same location. So they're sort of taken out of their home environment and really put in a new environment where they've got eyes on them 24/7. Usually those services are provided in 30-day increments. So it could be a 30-day, a 60-day, or a 90-day stay in a residential program. From there, they might step down to what's called a partial hospitalization program. Hospitalization, often that word is a bit of a misnomer. It probably, this level of care likely originated in hospitals as a step down from hospitalization, but it doesn't require hospitalization. Obviously, we're running one at LAT and we are not a hospital. But that's, as I said earlier, defined as a minimum of 20 hours of treatment a week. So clients are it's kind of like a full-time job. They're living at home, but they're coming in for treatment 5 days a week, 4 or 5 hours a day. And from there, the step down might be an intensive outpatient program. So that could be anywhere between 3 and 5 days a week with group and individual therapy provided. And then finally, you know, the hope is that we can stabilize someone to the point where it's safe to step them down to just seeing their outpatient providers, a therapist, hopefully a psychiatrist, you know, at least once or twice a week. So we're able to sort of cover people through those levels of care. And with the psychosocial rehabilitation program, which I want to kind of pivot to and talk a little bit more about, we can cover clients really at any of those levels. So we've met clients, I personally have met clients when they were in the hospital, and we were going to be helping them find the housing when they got out, helping them get into treatment, that kind of thing. So we can sort of span all of these different levels with our psychosocial rehabilitation program. as I mentioned earlier, all of our case managers or psychosocial rehabilitators are master's level clinicians. So they have masters in clinical psychology, maybe a master's in social work, might be working on their hours towards licensure. But they're out in the community doing things that clients are having a hard time doing on their own. I usually like to provide a few examples of things that I did as a case manager. A lot of times I would go to a client psychiatrist meeting or their appointment with them. They would have been complaining to me for a solid month about all of the symptoms and side effects they were experiencing, but they get in front of the doctor asks how they're doing, and they say fine. So I would then fill in the blanks with all of that information that I've been hearing about all month. I've gone to the grocery store, helped clients make healthier choices when they were marketing. I've gone to we've gone bowling, we've gone to get coffee, we've gone to the beach. We can do all sorts of fun things, but we're having those therapeutic conversations while we're doing it. So we're, one of our clinical directors has referred to it as like therapists without walls or therapy without walls. And I think that's a good way to think about it. So we're not staring at each other across a room and talking. We're out there doing things, but often that's a great opportunity. Clients tend to open up when they're out in the community. And again, just helping clients with exposures. Maybe they're socially anxious and we can help them, start up a conversation in a store, in a restaurant, in a museum, that kind of thing. Again, helping clients to do the things and doing those things with them until they're able to do them on their own. That's always the goal. We're always trying to work ourselves out of a job in our PSR program. But because it's individualized and it's one-on-one, there's really no limit to the things that we can do with clients, really whatever their needs are. Clients are generally introduced to at least 2 case managers, so they know at least 2 people on the team. One would be a primary that would be heading up most of the communication with the other treatment providers, psychiatrists, therapists, with the family and updating the family as to what's going on. And then there's usually a secondary case manager as well, so that, if somebody goes on vacation or is sick, they'll be guaranteed to know at least one other person that can see them for a visit. In the PSR program or psychosocial rehabilitation program, we generally like to start clients out with 3 visits a day, 3 2-hour visits a week. We want to start strong and we want to build that relationship and really get in there and figure out what clients need to be happy, to be healthy. It's very much a wellness model as opposed to an illness model. We're focused on the things that successful people have in their lives and happy and satisfied people have in their lives. So that would be part of the reason why we're looking at those different, and I just want to get to that slide, why we look at these different, we call them domains. So domains of functioning. Psychiatric medical is the first. We've got to get clients stable on their medications, get them hooked up with a psychiatrist, get a good team in place, hopefully get them an outpatient therapist, because again, although we are trained as therapists in the PSR program, we don't really want to be doing the therapy. We want to be helping the clients out in the community, helping them connect with resources and do the things they're having a hard time doing. Social interpersonal is a part of that. We're creating relationships with clients one-on-one, but we're also encouraging them to maybe reach out to old friends that they haven't talked to in a while. I often refer to the 1-2 punch of NLP coping, and I think most of us would agree, as isolating and avoiding. We isolate because we don't want to burden other people. We don't want to bring them down, so we just try to white knuckle through what we're going through, and we avoid responsibilities. We don't open mail because we're afraid we'll get a bill that we can't pay, or we don't check our email for 6 months at a time, and then things pile up and it feels overwhelming. So we want clients to, or want to help clients kind of tackle those different types of challenges. The second domain you can see is social interpersonal. So we definitely want clients to be connected, again, with existing friends, with old friends, or figure out ways to meet new friends, go to meetup groups, support groups together with the client, that kind of thing. I've gone to NA meetings with clients who needed to go to those types of meetings, but weren't going on their own when I was a case manager. The third domain is recreation. So we want to get clients plugged back into things that they enjoy. It's part of the intake I do when I'm looking at a client for our intensive outpatient program or partial hospitalization program. I'm asking clients, what do you enjoy? What do you do for fun? And a lot of times there's a huge pause before clients answer. And I often then clarify, well, think of things that you used to enjoy, because right now, if you're really depressed, you might not be doing a whole heck of a lot. And you might not even enjoy the things that you are doing. But the theory is doing something is almost always better than doing nothing. So we want to get clients, back and either connected with old hobbies and interests, or help them discover new ones, help them investigate or check out new activities that they might enjoy. Self-management, that's we sometimes now just kind of shorthand that as adulting, but teaching clients to budget, to learn how to pay bills, to kind of see what's coming in, what's going out, and how do I spend my money during the month. Staying on top of personal business, paying bills, picking up medications when they're running low, that kind of thing. So that would fall under the self-management domain. The next is family. Families are a really important component. We connect with the families at least once a week in the psychosocial rehabilitation level of care. Families, a lot of times have been kind of doing this sort of case management work on their own before they finally find LAT. And we really want parents to step back and just be the loving and supportive parents that they would prefer to be, and let us kind of handle those sorts of self-management tasks, and sometimes the budgeting. Sometimes we hold clients' money, so they have to come through us in order to get money rather than bug their families, that kind of thing. So the family relationship is important. We keep families up to date on what we're doing, but we also have some family coaching that we provide. Next is education vocation. So this is where we're going into sort of productivity. And just to take a step back, we go through 3 levels of rehabilitation in our psychosocial rehabilitation program. Stability, and that would be the psychiatric medical primarily. Activity, which would be social, recreational, social, interpersonal, and recreation. So getting back to connecting with friends, getting back to our hobbies and interests. And then finally, we want, after stability is established and we've got clients more active, we want productivity. And that's where the education vocation comes in. So we might look into classes they might want to take. Maybe they want to get back to school, sign up for classes at a community college, or look into volunteer opportunities, part-time jobs, full-time jobs. So we want to help clients with all of those stages once they're ready. So again, it's stability, activity, and productivity. And education vocation would be in the productivity domain. And then finally, belief system. And this kind of harkens back to what I was talking about when I talked about our IOP and the cognitive behavioral therapy-based approach that we take. A client's belief system can have a huge impact on how they experience the world. And if clients are shut down, they don't think anything's going to work, they think they've already tried everything, meantime, there's always new things coming out and new things to try. But lots of clients kind of feel like they're at the end of their rope before they come to a program like ours. And working on that belief system, giving them hope again, seeing that, hey, we might not be able to stop those automatic thoughts from popping into your head, but maybe we can teach you how not to engage with them as much, to step back from them when you need to, so you're not as bothered by them. So these are how we work in the psychosocial rehabilitation program. And again, unfortunately, although we've had those successful pilot programs with insurance, we've yet to find an insurance company that recognizes this more proactive form of treatment and is willing to cover it. So it's something we're still advocating for and working on. But on the IOP and PHP side, we are in network with quite a few insurance companies. So these are the insurance companies that we are in network with currently. And even if it's out of network insurance, we can always, if a client has a PPO plan without a network benefits, we can always accommodate and find out what their benefits are for our program as well. So one of the first things we do when clients call is we try to get that insurance information and run the benefits for them, so they're not blindsided by some of the costs, the deductibles, the co-pays, that kind of thing. So we want to do that on the front end so clients know what they're in for financially. The next step after that generally is to schedule an intake assessment, usually done with one of our clinical directors. And from there, once we've gathered the information that we need to provide to insurance to get a client authorized to participate in our program, we're pretty much ready to go. And then a client can decide when they want to start, how intensively they want to start, whether it's 5 days, 4 days, 3 days, and we get them in the program. One of the things that I think that sets our program apart, I'm going to kind of stop the share because I don't have as much information on those slides about these topics I'm about to talk about. But one of the things we do if a client first starts with our IOP or our PHP, again, intensive outpatient program or partial hospitalization program, is we have clients set goals in 4 different areas of well-being. physical, emotional, relational, and spiritual, as well as one goal in either healthy diet or sleep hygiene, because as I'm sure we've all experienced at different times in our life, if we're not getting enough sleep or eating right, nothing works particularly well for us. So we want clients to set 5 goals, try to make those SMART goals. You might have heard that acronym before. We make them specific, measurable, so we know if a client met them. But really the focus is on achievability. That's the most important component. And the example I generally give, I would much rather have a client set a goal to exercise twice a week and then go ahead and exercise 4 times and feel great about it than to exercise those same 4 days, but maybe their goal was to go 6 days a week and now they relate to that as a failure. So we are trying to onboard some healthy self-care right off the bat, get clients to start doing things outside of program hours that are going to be helpful and supportive of their treatment and recovery, and show them that if we take better care of ourselves, things tend to go better. So we check in on those goals weekly in our process group, but although clients often want to meet with their individual therapist and just kind of launch into all the things that they've been struggling with, we really do want them to pump the brakes and pause and set these healthy self-care goals, because if a client is on leave from work or took a semester off of school and they're not super busy, this is a great time to get that healthy self-care up and running. It's a lot harder to do once we are busy, and it's the thing that tends to fall by the wayside. I'm sure we can all recall times when we planned on exercising on a given day or going to the gym and it just didn't happen. So we really want clients to get regular with their self-care and see the benefits firsthand and experientially of how much things can shift if we're just taking better care of ourselves. So those are the, again, the various levels of care we have at Life Adjustment Team. We can have one-on-one psychosocial rehabilitation, 3 times a week. We've had clients who met with the team 5 times a week if that's what they needed, and that's the intensity that they required. We've got the PHP and IOP, which can run 5 days a week, IOP mornings, PHP mornings and afternoons, and we can help clients step down throughout. One of the things we do on both, in all the levels of care, is we really coordinate care with other treatment providers, and that's a really important component. We get releases to speak with therapists and psychiatrists. We don't want to treat clients in a vacuum. If a client is living at home, we're going to want to be able to speak with their parents as well, because we want continuity of care. We want to coordinate with other providers. Especially on the IOP and PHP side, we're only going to be there maybe 3 to 5 months. So we're the add-on, we're the added support and structure, but we don't want to replace the existing treatment that's going on. And we want clients to have that to step back down to when it's appropriate. So coordination and acting as a team, it's in the name, Life Adjustment Team, very, very much a team approach with every psychiatrist and therapist that might be seeing one of our clients in any of our levels of care. So that is sort of an overview of the levels of care in the mental health care system, as well as the specific ways that Life Adjustment Team addresses those. I'm just flipping through to see if there's another slide that might be helpful. I will share this slide with you guys. It kind of goes over and summarizes what I just shared about the different services provided at Life Adjustment Team. But sometimes the visual is a little bit more helpful as a way to think about it. And that's why we wanted to provide these slides for you guys. So I am happy to keep talking. I talk about our program all day long, and I could do it until my face turns blue, but I'm also happy to answer any questions that anybody might have, or any specific scenarios that might be going on, and maybe we could see how we might be able to help. Katie, do you have any questions? And I did. Thanks, Jefferson. And I did, just really quickly, Jefferson, I wanted to introduce Katie. She's actually our intake coordinator. So if you were to call LAT, she's usually the first person to speak to. And so we wanted to kind of put a face to the name and let you kind of meet Katie today with us. She's amazing. She's been with the team how many years now?
14 years.
14 years. Cynthia, how many years have you been with the team?
30.
Right, and I'm coming up on 10. So I think that speaks volumes about the kind of team that we have. Garrett, I know it's just 2024, but we want to see you for at least double digits, at least 10 years.
Right.
But it's the first place I've worked as an adult more than 5 years. I'll be honest with you. It's an amazing program. It's an amazing team. And we really help clients, and there's nothing more rewarding than that. So that's why we do what we do. And go ahead, Jefferson, sorry.
That's fine. So Garrett, if you're there 10 years, I believe you get a free coffee. I'm not sure about that. Or a jacket. So
Free handshake and a pat on the back.
there you go. So Eric, thank you so much. Well, thank you everybody for the background. I am a veteran of intensive outpatient. I went through alternative options because that's where I was in Orange County, and it was a lifesaver because I was definitely at the end of my rope. Now, I think a couple of things we've talked about, you talked about, and I'm looking at the chat as well. It breaks my heart that there's a financial barrier, especially if people desperately need it. So one question I have is, and this is not true for alternative options, curious about your stance on this. If someone has Medi-Cal or Medicare, can that apply to your services?
So it's a great question, Jefferson, and something I didn't address up front and probably should have. But we actually only take private insurance. But what we do have is a really pretty exhaustive referral list. So one of the things that we pride ourselves in, and Katie can speak to this as well, when we get on the phone with a client, we're not trying to rush them off the call. We're not trying to say, oh, you need a substance program. That's not us. Click. I generally, I would say on average, spend about 20 minutes with clients on the phone, just explaining all of these things, providing the appropriate referrals. You know, if it's not something that we can treat or help specifically, we do have a list of providers that accept Medi-Cal and Medicare. So, you know, we are always happy to provide referrals and share the resources that we have as a team. But we don't currently take the Medi-Cal and Medicare insurance. It's only the private insurance.
But I've been looking into it.
Go ahead.
Sorry?
I've been looking into it. I've been looking into everything. I'm always looking into everything.
Yeah, because the people I talk to are in the lower socioeconomic part of that ladder, and but I feel like, why should they be, not allowed to participate in things like this? And then second, so I have a follow-up question, and this actually is a question for Aaron. With the new, was it Prop 1 or whatever it was that passed, that NAMI was very much behind backing, and Governor Newsom was backing it too. Is any of that money available for people like in this situation that are on the lower economic ladder, that that they would now be able to access things they weren't before? I'm just curious.
Thank you, Jefferson. And I love this lens of advocacy for the folks that don't have private insurance. And to be honest, with this new transition with Prop 1, a lot of the financial allocation of funds will go to the state level, so versus the county level. So, and I think that their goal is to provide that, just like the state provides with Medi-Cal, right, and Medicaid. So I'm hoping that that is the trajectory that they're leaning towards. I don't know of a particular program that's in action right now, but I do believe that that was the intention, to make sure that the states can have more agility to provide more services. Because what was happening was, it was funneling down to the grassroots level, and they were sometimes seeing the trees and not the forest for 20 years. So I think by zooming out and kind of switching the allocation process and giving it more to the state, I think that they're going to have more agility to fund these larger programs like this, so they can have a more diverse service.
I'm thrilled to hear that. And I don't mean to bogart this whole meeting, but I do have two quick questions. Thank you for your indulgence on this. Also, it seems to me like you're mentioning community. I'm curious to know, I'm a musician. I've always toyed with the idea of like starting a NAMI choir. Because it's nice to have, I don't know if you saw the short film that won the Oscar, The Last Repair Shop, but it's talking about how the Los Angeles Unified School District has volunteers repairing instruments so children who have no money can access an instrument, and what a difference that makes in people's lives. I'm thrilled about that. I'm kind of inspired about that. I'm thinking, well, what could I do? And I've done various, volunteer things with music. Is that something, when you mentioned that there's music therapy, which I think is fabulous, what does that look like? And can it continue beyond? Like when I left my intensive outpatient, that's where I found NAMI, because I was like, wow, I feel like I've got some momentum. What do I do now? And thankfully found NAMI, and that was a continuation. I'm sure you guys, maybe, is this right to say you have a feeder program from what you do into NAMI? I have two questions there wrapped in an enigma. I'm so sorry I'm being so verbose and maybe not articulate, but anyway, there's two questions. One is there a feeder kind of idea from what you do into NAMI? That's one. Secondly, would a music program consisting of, let's say, alumni from your group into kind of a music thing continuation, would that be helpful?
I mean, it absolutely could be, Jefferson. I think, our music therapist could speak way more eloquently about the benefits of music therapy, but, songs taught, artists write about, and songs, they sing about mental health issues more often than not, relationship issues, like lots of the themes that are covered in popular music today, clients can resonate with, and maybe they can summarize how a client's feeling better than a client could put it into words. So I'll just to give you a couple of examples of things that we've done in the music therapy group, just as ideas for any sort of alumni group that you might want to be starting. He does a activity called Blackout Poetry. Well, he'll delete some of the lyrics from a song and let us rewrite the lyrics to personalize the song to us, or for clients to play songs that are validating for them and to talk about why it's meaningful for them. We've had clients, one of my favorite activities, we can't do it as much anymore in our new location, but we used to have drum circles, and just teaching clients to be in the beginner's mindset and be able to synchronize their drumming with other people just by kind of listening and overcoming that performance anxiety and that initial fear of messing it up, and he just, I think last month, brought in ukuleles and had all the clients learn to play a few chords on the ukulele. It was amazing. We can do that in our new space. It's a lot quieter than the drums. The drums used to be pretty loud. It was fun, but too loud. And so it's a more creative way to relate to what's going on. And if clients are musically inclined, again, like when we engage with creativity, we tend to be mindful. We tend to focus on what we're doing. I'm sure if you play an instrument, Jefferson, when we're working with our hands, we tend to focus on what we're doing so we don't mess it up. That focus is super helpful because it gets us out of our head. Because, again, under the cognitive behavioral therapy sort of umbrella that we're working under at LAT, 9 times out of 10, that's where the problem lies. And it's not a problem with the client. It's just the way our brains work. Our brains generate thoughts all the time, some positive, some negative, some helpful, some unhelpful. So getting out of our heads, getting into the moment, and music is a great way to do it. Art, the same. And that's why we have those groups. So I definitely think there's an opportunity for more, engagement with creativity in this mental health space. And I think it would be a good thing. We already have an alumni program, but you're giving me a good idea of some follow-up kind of meetings that we could do, or different types of groups we can do, different activities in that alumni program. Because
I would love to.
Super helpful.
Yeah, I would love to be a part of it. Like you said, if there's whether it's playing basketball, whether it's going bowling, or participating in a music program, I just find that was a saving grace for me in school, was like participating in a choir, participating in a band. You just feel like you're part of a group and you're doing something productive and constructive.
Yeah. And hopefully making beautiful music together.
Right. And so my second question, though, is there any kind of feeder program from life adjustment team into NAMI once people sort of like are now done with what you can offer?
Yeah, I mean, when clients step down from our program or discharge from our programs or our different levels of care, we do provide them with resources, community resources, support groups to connect with. But NAMI is something that we would recommend. I think everybody could benefit from NAMI meetings. I think families in particular, get a lot of support from these meetings. You know, maybe not the clients themselves, but the families can learn a lot, get in touch with a lot of resources. So NAMI, I just referred a client who reached out to me on a Saturday. A friend of his was struggling and, you know, ended up needing to be hospitalized, but he didn't have insurance. So NAMI was one of the first referrals I gave him. In addition to duty person, there's all sorts of others. And if you and anyone else, this goes for anyone else on the call today, if anyone wants to know some of these resources, some of these places that take Medi-Cal and Medicare, by all means, please give us a call. Like, again, we're happy to share what we have. And if we can't help clients, the priority that I've always come into this industry with is, if I can't help somebody, I'm going to find out who can, and then I'm going to get them where they need to be. That's the priority. So, you know, we're not trying to like forward clients or take clients that aren't a good fit for our program, you know, and there's lots of places out there that take different approaches. So, you know, we're happy to provide that information. If you wanted to give us a call tomorrow and ask for some IOPs that take Medi-Cal, I could provide that to you.
It's just, I'm such a big fan of NAMI. I'm betraying that allegiance, but thank you for your answer. Thank you.
Absolutely.
But we also refer a lot of families to the NAMI Family to Family program, and we like it so much that we asked Aaron if we can use the curriculum to support some of our families. So we're trying to figure out, you know, we just think it's so good. You know, we think it's a fantastic program, and families learn a lot, and we would love to have something with that type of format. We provide a lot of support for the families of people in our program, but having that curriculum is very important, I think, in helping families, especially when they're starting out on a journey. So.
Thank you, Cynthia and Eric. I think we have, in Jefferson, what you're witnessing is like a mutual admiration club. I think that we all kind of, and Garrett is the perfect example. So I see your hand is up, Garrett, and I'd love for you to share, because you are a kind of a perfect example of how you came to NAMI and LAT. I think you're on mute, Garrett, but there you go. Yeah, go for it.
Well, NAMI, I think, really goes hand in hand with LAT in terms of NAMI helps get free resources, so free support groups, Janis Black Warner speaker series, you know, there's free 8-week class family to family. And I was so fortunate to have two great organizations. I had NAMI Westside LA in my life, and I had LAT in my life. And what was really great about going to LAT is I felt, with my diagnosis of schizoaffective bipolar, and I felt being hospitalized so many times, I felt really uncomfortable in my own skin, and I felt very, very shut out from society and isolated and alone. But then when I went to LAT, the things I was talking about, the things I shared, and the energy that I got from the LAT team was understanding. So I didn't feel so scared to talk about things that would scare me, because the LAT kind of was used to it, was trained for it, and had experience with what I was dealing with. So it was great going to LAT and having a whole team to work with that really helped me feel myself again. And it was a great program for me because I was ready for it. I wanted to do the work. I wanted to, you know, participate in the group therapy. It was hard for me at times to go on the nature walks or play basketball and to go out of my comfort zone. But looking back on it, I felt the approach from LAT was gentle, and it was appropriate for the stage that I was at. So I was lucky to have a good experience.
Yeah, and if I could speak to that for just 1 second, I often tell clients and anyone who will listen, I think we all have a basic human need to feel seen, heard, and understood. And it's one of the things that we really, you know, I think in all of our levels of care at LAT, it's a primary focus. Like, clients have that experience with us. They don't feel alone. They meet people who can relate to what they're going through, both on the client side and on the therapist side too. Most therapists have been through some stuff, and that's why they went to school to pay it forward. So I think we get a lot of understanding, and clients really feel seen, heard, and understood. And I think we all need that, but somebody struggling with mental health issues who's been isolating for months really needs that. And so just that group sort of dynamic can be super helpful. And when I ask clients if they're discharging from our program and they've gotten everything they wanted out of the program, I ask them, what was one of the most helpful things? A lot of times they'll tell me it was the other clients. No offense, but it was the other clients. I'm happy to hear that. I love that we create that environment where clients can learn from each other and support each other and relate to each other. And I'm glad you had that experience, Garrett.
Garrett, is there something else you'd like to share? I see your hand up.
Erin, it's
I
me.
think. Oh, there, go for it.
I'm sorry, we're just sharing the computer together. Hi, I'm Cynthia Sampson. Eric, thank you. You did a fabulous job. But I have a question. I have a lot of people. I answer the warm line calls. Everyone calls. Okay. And I have a lot of people that are knowing their child's isolating. Their child doesn't want to take medication, or either they're smoking marijuana. And how do you partner with those people? How do you go into their homes and try to talk to that young person that is afraid to leave?
A really great question. First, what we often do, Cynthia, is that we'll start working with the families before we start working with clients like that. If a client's really, we need like a basic level of willingness from the client, and that sometimes takes a little bit of work to get to.
Right.
So lots of times we'll coach the family. Hey, you're asking me for money. I've told you, we're not going to keep just being the bank for you, and we need you to reach out to LAT. I think they have some really good ideas, and I think you would benefit from talking to them. And so we coach families, and there's a script that the clinical director of our psychosocial rehabilitation program can forward to families to help them, because it's ultimately the parents and the families that have the leverage. I can't force anyone to come to my program, and I can't force anyone to stay seated in my groups and stay in my program. So we need the families' leverage, and a lot of times it's working with the families first to create that willingness that we need. And once we have the willingness, because most of the clients, and I would say, across our different levels of care, most clients would prefer not to need these services, right? They wish they could handle this on their own, or they wish they didn't need treatment. So a lot of times it's overcoming those obstacles, overcoming the shame of mental illness. There's stigma. It's gotten so much better, but there's still a stigma attached to it. And so there's things to overcome to get clients to that willing state. And oftentimes working with the families first and coaching them on how to talk to their loved ones can sort of create that willingness for us to get in there and start working with their kids. But, we meet clients where they're at. I mean, that's what we're all about. So if a client wants to, talk to us through a closed door for the first couple of sessions, if that's the best they can do, we'll take it, and we create the relationship. And once that relationship is created and that bond is created, clients tend to loosen up. They tend to talk more about what's going on. They tend to let us help once they get to know us.
Wonderful.
But a lot of times it takes that family coaching first to get to that willing point where we can start working with the client or the kid as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And a great question. I just wanted to say, hey, Patty. Just saying hi.
I was distracted because I was trying to type a response, and then I realized I was missing something about what you were saying. But did you also talk about how sometimes when we start with the family, that is some sort of something that leads to the client going to the hospital, which is the point at which you can start actually working with the client? Sometimes it doesn't happen through the door. Sometimes it happens another way.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I mean, sometimes it's like the parent creating the boundary, the healthy boundary for their kid, and letting their kid push up against it to the point where they're so dysregulated. We I think pride ourselves in trying to keep our clients out of the hospital, and I think we're really pretty successful at that. But sometimes that's just where our client needs to go, and that might just be the starting point. They might need to hit their rock bottom before they're willing to accept treatment on a voluntary basis. So so sometimes holding the line and getting a client where they need to be, even if it's the hospital, that's the start of the journey. And then we can maybe meet with them in the hospital and take it from there. See what they need help with, what led them to this hospitalization, and how can we help them live the kind of life that they want to live and get them back on track. And I'm sorry, as I was speaking, I didn't look at any of the chats. Would it make sense, Erin, to look at some of the chat? There might be some questions in there as well.
Thank you, Eric. I think that your team has been really wonderful to kind of respond pretty diligently. Thank you,
Oh, good. I
Katie.
see. Yeah, awesome. But just I want to make
Yeah,
sure these
like-
questions get answered.
I don't think all the questions were
And
answered.
Cynthia.
Sorry.
Okay.
The hourly rate for psychosocial rehabilitation is $245 an hour. That's our private pay rate. As far as other psychosocial rehabilitation programs in California, I don't know of any. I know that one of our employees with our blessing started a psychosocial rehabilitation program in Colorado and is doing very well out there. And she actually has been talking about, she's actually submitted a application to Medicaid, and she thinks that it's going to work. And based on what happens with her, that may open up a door for us as well.
Looks like there's also a question of saying, what is the average number of clients per case manager, and is there a maximum? So generally we keep for the psychosocial rehabilitation program, our case managers generally have around 7-8 primary clients. And that's when they're basically responsible for all the communications with the outside treatment team, the family, anybody who's involved. We don't necessarily have a maximum. There's no number that we have in mind. We just know based on the schedules when a case manager doesn't have any room in their current schedule for additional clients. So depending on the client that comes in, we try and match them up personality wise with who matches up the best. It's not necessarily about the numbers of clients that they have. So sorry, I don't have an actual number, but generally 7-8.
And to piggyback onto that, I think, you have maybe like you said, a handful of clients that you're the primary case manager, but also our goal is for all of our clients to have a team, right? So of more than one person, they're not just seeing the same person all week long. We want them to get different perspectives, and they want people with different strengths, different backgrounds. So our case managers, they have their primary people, but they're also working with other case managers' clients as well. So that the clients are benefiting from having that team approach.
Yeah, and actually,
Especially because we're sometimes seeing someone 3 days a week, 3 days a week with the same person it's a lot, So it's nice.
I was just going to share a little bit more. I'm sorry, Sin, go ahead.
No, that's it.
I just want to share a little bit more about the types of clients that we work with. There's a lot of overlap between the different levels of care. We work with clients with thought disorders. So we've got clients with schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, bipolar disorder. We work with anxiety, with depression. The rule, we really work with just about everybody. We're a mental health primary, at least on the IOP and PHP side. The focus is really mental health. So if a client called us and they straight up needed addiction services, we would refer them out, because that's really not our bread and butter right now. We can certainly work on those types of issues because there's often co-occurring substance use going on. We'll basically treat it as unhealthy coping and trying to replace it with healthier coping, but we don't require complete sobriety for participation in any of our levels of care. We just ask that clients not be using substances when they're meeting with the team, when they're in our groups or in an individual session. And really the only rule outs on the IOP and PHP side, on the IOP side, I don't think it's the same as on the PHP side, but working with a client with thought disorders who is not seeing a psychiatrist or taking medications has proved really, really challenging, because the client often doesn't know why they're there or what they're there to work on. So we need a certain level of stability to be able to help them at that IOP level of care. That's not the case with our psychosocial rehabilitation program. A lot of times it's through the relationship and through the connections that our case managers forge with their clients, that a client agrees to take medication or agrees to go to the hospital or see a psychiatrist. So, we don't require those other, parts of the treatment team be in place, but we are going to make it a priority to try to get them in place. And then really the only rule outs, I think more globally would be any sort of history of violence, because, in the group setting, obviously in IOP, PHP, we got to keep everybody safe. But we make an exception for intra-family violence, because a lot of times if a client is having an episode, parents might be trying to get them to calm down or get them to the hospital or whatever it is. And there can often be some outbursts associated with that episode. So we don't want to like shut a client down because they happen to push or shove someone in their family when they were psychotic or manic. But if there's any sort of history of violence, between strangers, that kind of thing, that would be a potential rule out, most likely, because again, we got to just focus on safety and keep everybody safe. Our case managers take clients in their cars and drive them around in the community, so that has to be a safe environment for everyone involved. And obviously, again, in the group setting, we need our therapists to feel safe, our group leaders to feel safe, and probably most importantly, our other clients to feel safe. But outside of that, there's really not a lot we can't do.
Eric, thank you so much. Are there any other questions? Go ahead, Janis.
Hi, first of all, Eric, Kathleen, and Cynthia, Life Adjustment Team, I want to thank you. It's been 10 years or more. This is about the third or the fourth time you've spoke with us on my speaker series. And I loved when you would come in person. We would have sometimes up to 70 people would show up at Vista Del Mar. We do it in the boardroom. It was at night, and it was I loved having it in person, and I wish NAMI had a home in Los Angeles. We could do that. And it was funny, Eric, I just want to say your name kept triggering something in me. Eric Carlson, Eric Carl, the very hungry caterpillar. It was a children's story. You know that, Aaron? You know that story?
I've had other people say that to me before. Yeah.
So I think out of the box. I just did some Googling. The metaphor for human development and progress is what this book is about. I too can grow up. I too can unfold my wings and fly into the world. Children learn the importance of, for instance, avoiding junk food, eating fruit, but not eating too much. And then what you talked about, Eric, was basic needs to be seen, heard, understood, and not feel alone. And Garrett, I want to applaud you, and Cynthia, you are my hero, Garrett. I look up to you, and you have so much gratitude for everyone wherever you go. And the most important thing I think is giving back. And Garrett, you being here and showing your success with the Life Adjustment Team, which you guys are probably one of the most original mental health. There's nothing for voices and for, there's nothing out there like you guys. And you are really special. And I'm so honored to have you back on our speaker series. And Aaron, thank you so much for putting this together. And I hope that you helped many. And Jefferson, if you're still with us, I was trying to brainstorm. Aaron and I have been talking about doing an event, something with our peer-to-peer, our younger people, getting people together. And I think it would flow into older people as well, because you were speaking, Eric, about how the older people help the younger people, because you're there to relate to one another and not be isolated. And one thing I notice about people who have anxiety, depression, and all of us have something in there, is we empathize more with people going through things. And I know my son he's doing quite well. He has paranoid schizophrenia. I think as you get older, he just turned 30. His psychotic break was when he was 19, and we came to you guys and we had a lot of meetings. And you know what? Sometimes we need that hospitalization because you have to get balanced. And everything you said, all of you tonight, resonated. And I have to tell you, each month, whatever topic this is, we can all find something to relate to ourselves and help others. And I just want to thank you all, because this was very special and very informative for all of us. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And Janice, I just wanted to add, trust me, that the older clients learn a lot from the younger clients as well. And that's one of the cool things about it, like the way that they interact and the way that they can teach each other. You know, older clients have been through it for longer, but younger clients have had some experiences that the older clients maybe, you know, haven't had yet. So it's a real mutual kind of beneficial relationship that's created there.
And I just want to, I noticed something my son talks about when he's in different groups or whatnot, and he has such empathy for people who have differences. If they have autism and he doesn't, and he has schizophrenia, and it's they're more sensitive. And I do notice people who are more creative, it's just the way your brains are. It's hereditary. It's not your fault. I mean, I've learned so much from all of you, and I keep on learning. Thank you so much, Eric and Kathleen and Cynthia and Garrett and Cynthia and all of you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having us. It's an honor.
Thank you. And I do also want to say, you know, I'm so sad that Sharon left already, because I wanted to say hi to her when she came on, but then she was muted, and then we kind of got into the thing. But, you know, we've known Sharon for so long, and she's so lovely, and I wanted to give her a special, you know, hi, it's so nice to see you, and appreciate all the wonderful things that you did for NAMI for so long. But since this is being recorded, I guess we have proof that I tried.
Sharon,
You know?
Sharon Janis is our queen of mental health in Los Angeles. And Aaron and I will make sure, and Garrett and Cynthia, that she will get this message. And we all love her so much. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Cynthia. We'll definitely let her know. We all feel the same way. I almost want to just take a moment and just, you know, because she will love this. Do you mind if I just record all of us from my phone, and we'll just all say, "We love you, Sharon," and I'm going to send it to her, because she will just absolutely love it. So on the count of 3, can we just say, "We love you, Sharon"?
We love
1,
you, Sharon.
2, 3.
We love
you, Sharon.
Sharon Janis, our queen of mental health in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. That will mean a lot to her. So I really appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you, everybody. And, you know, if you have any questions, never hesitate to reach out. And just one little thing, I shared this with the LAT team before everyone joined us. And I just want to also thank Janis again for creating this space. So we have this sense of community, right, Jefferson? I know, yeah, I see you, and I love that you bring up community, and it's really what LAT is all about. And, you know, in our January Janis Black Warner Speaker Series, we had Jennifer Hunt on here, who manages the CARE Act for the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health. And she came on and she was talking to us about the launch of the CARE Act here in Los Angeles County. And it was just kind of a full circle moment. Cynthia Sampson, who handles our warm line, she's our warm line resource navigator and outreach coordinator, and she does so much for our organization, helped, you know, organize this event this evening. She took a call from one of our community members, and she said, "You know what, come tonight, come to our speaker series this evening. I think you'll really benefit from it." And that community member was going through crisis, and she was able to connect with Jennifer Hunt, and Jennifer Hunt was able to help her petition the court and really help her get the help that she needed. And it's just all about community, about being here, sharing resources, and creating this space for our community to connect. And it was very interesting, because it was really a great example about advocacy in action and how the CARE Act can actually work and benefit. Because I know that there's, you know, it's a lot to navigate the system, but it was really able to connect one of our community members with someone that really could assist and did assist. And it was actually featured in the New York Times. So I will drop that into the chat. I just recently got in touch with the reporter, so Cynthia Levon, She was Levon Colette. She was featured in the New York Times, and that all happened because of this speaker series. So creating that space, you were all witnesses of it, and just thank you for being here this evening and doing the work that you do and being a part of our community. We love and appreciate you. So be well, and we will see you next month.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care,
Take
everybody.
care,
Night,
everyone.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.